everybody, to the State of the Sub address for the CFL Reddit. I'm here with a very special guest today, President of Football Canada, Jim Mullin. How you doing today, Jim?
I'm okay. I'm better than the weather here. It's a big, cold Slurpee outside after a night of snow and a morning of rain.
Wow. It's not too bad here. It's a little bit slippery, but hey, at least we got the Grey Cup in before it got too bad.
The timing was elegant in comparison to some of the other professional sports leagues out there. Kudos to the CFL. Kudos to U Sport and the CJFL, too, by the way, for ensuring that their leagues went off without a hitch. There was a lot of work that people just don't see behind the scenes in terms of that level of planning and consultation and information gathering that goes in, and then maintenance of it as well. It was an immense effort that unfortunately no one ever gets a taste of seeing. So kudos to all of those groups.
Yeah, I mean, especially after a year off, to come back in such full force, it was phenomenal. I mean, I even moved out to the Bay of Quinte area, and we just got the Quinte Skyhawks in the CJFL, and I've been looking forward to checking them out. And yeah, as long as we can keep this growing, I'm happy.
Yeah, no, it was nice to see the Skyhawks get a win in an expansion year too. I think they victimized the GTA Grizzlies twice for some wins and found a way to the playoffs in the first round. So full points to them.
Yeah. Now, I want to look more to the future, though. What do you see for all levels going forward in these next few months?
In the next few months, I think one encouraging sign that we have from a Football Canada perspective is, we have worked with the CFL on a number of items, but have had, quite frankly, limited traction on them. Football Canada as an organization has 2 points of focus. One of them is the grassroots and programming around grassroots and youth football. The other end is high performance, whether it's national championships or international teams. Basically, we're Team Canada, right? And we've wanted to convey that message to all the teams of the CFL. I've had discussions with their staff. I've had discussions with Randy. On January the 18th, we have an opportunity to finally sit down and address the presidents of the CFL and have that discussion about how existing programs with the CFL's megaphone attached to them can be more effective in the community to reach young families, to get involved in the game at the most basic level, to reach new Canadians, to reach Indigenous groups at a very grassroots level. On that level with our First Down program that we have, and you go over to footballcanada.com, there's a cheap plug to go in and check out what First Down is. It's just basic orientation of the game, picking up the ball, throwing it, activities for kids from 4 to 8. It's almost like Timbits hockey, right? On the other end, I think CFL 2.0 on the international side has had some worthy objectives. I think we can make it a fuller package by having the CFL work with us on our high performance in our Team Canada, because one of the objectives for Football Canada is to have proprietary events in Canada. So bringing the world to play Team Canada, whether it's U18, U20. We just signed an MOU with the East-West Bowl, for example, with the Coaches Association for Universities, CUFCA, where this year we're going to help them and try to find a broadcast path for that game. But in addition to that, figure out how we can grow this out and bring international teams into it, where you have university or college all-star teams playing against the Team Canada in Canada on a Canadian field, using Canadian or Canadian modified rules to accommodate them. And as Football Canada, we need to develop these events for revenue. We need to develop these events as a TV product. But how great does that fit into what the objectives of 2.0 were, right? To have countries be able to look into Canada in Canadian venues, seeing their boys play our boys, on our field, right? I think that's the finishing piece that can really advance what the intent of at least the partial intent of what 2.0 was all about in terms of how it was designed on the international side. So those are some of the things I keep preaching: alignment, alignment, alignment. So the more we talk, it's a lot of work behind the scenes, but the more we talk, the more we consult, the more we have an understanding of where we are around the country, because it's very uneven around the country. The more we can move forward together and deliver better programming to get better results.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic vision, and we all have our wish list items, right? We all want to see certain things in the Canadian football ecosystem. We want to see more integration. I mean, for me personally, I'm only 29, but I've always been sort of in this ecosystem. I actually have right here, that's a picture of Pinball holding me as a baby. and that's sort of what kicked it off, right? It's that integration, being out in the community, sort of going to schools and meeting children, talking with them, getting them really into it. And also in terms of integration, I always loved the years where the Vanier Cup was paired with the Grey Cup. 2007, I saw the Manitoba Bisons and the St. Mary's Huskies, a game that I probably wouldn't be able to see now because it's always in Quebec City, but when it was in Toronto before the Grey Cup, it was a great pairing. You'd have that game on the Saturday and then the Grey Cup on the Sunday. And I felt they went hand in hand, and I'm sort of sad that it's disappeared in the recent years.
People that know me know that I ran the 2011 Vanier Cup in Vancouver paired with the Grey Cup. That was the first one that was actually integrated into Grey Cup week and the festival. And it was a lot of hard work. We started well behind the eight ball, about 8 months out. But at the end of the day, we had a lower bowl sellout, and we had best game ever, right?
Yeah.
And it was and we had best TV numbers ever too. When you combine the French numbers and the English numbers, it was just under 1 million, and then the following year it was over 1 million because it was combined with the Grey Cup game in Toronto. The issue moving forward with Vanier Cup and CFL schedules is this: the Grey Cup now winds up about a week earlier than it used to, and eventually, at least I see the CFL schedule moving earlier into May as a start. It's virtually impossible for U Sports to wind up their season to have it align with that Grey Cup date, and that's
I see.
That's unfortunate. But that being said, it doesn't mean that you can't drop a Mitchell Bowl in there. It doesn't mean that you can't drop a Yates Cup in there. It doesn't mean that when you go to Regina, the CJFL can't hold off on their Canadian Bowl for next week because the PFC is hosting it next year, and you could play the Canadian Bowl on the same week as the weekend as the Grey Cup. There's all kinds of possibilities. It doesn't necessarily just have to be the Vanier Cup with the Grey Cup, although that would be optimal. For people that think, well, U Sports can just move things back a week or move things back a week or two, what you're doing then is you're handicapping the players who are working in the summer and trying to raise money. They don't have full scallies, right?
Right.
You're creating more costs for schools to stage summer camps to get the team started, because you're eating into more housing costs on the one end, on the front end, at a time where universities are in debt as a result of the pandemic and budgets are coming down.
Right.
You're starting a season with no students on campus. There are all these reasons with the vast majority of games. Well, not the vast majority of games, but the inventory of games in the first 2 weeks, where money's going out and nothing's coming in, right?
Right.
So to sacrifice that for aligning the championship game at the end is a lot to ask, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now, I kind of want to switch gears from the integration and alignment of the various levels of the Canadian football ecosystem to the other thing you talked about, which was CFL 2.0 and the international initiative. Now, 10 years ago, I remember watching the IFAF, the International Federation of American Football World Cup. The World Cup. It was a American Football World Cup, and Canada got silver. It was awesome. Michael Faulds was the quarterback, and I haven't forgot that. But I want to see, or I just want to know how that can, because you've just taken a role with the International Federation of
The
American
Secretary General of IFAF now, so all the business affairs kind of flow through me between the I'm on the board, between the board and the executive level and the members. So I'm sure that if I say the wrong thing now, there'll be a little red laser dot trained on me and I'll be taken out. So
Yeah. I'd just be interested to see if Canada could either return to that, because I know there were plans for a 2023 World Cup in Australia that were sort of postponed, but I know Canada hasn't been in it lately, and I don't know whether there's going to be a return, especially now that there's this deliberate initiative to try and become more global.
well, for Football Canada, our number one event for male tackle is the World Junior, and we host the World Junior Championship in Edmonton in 2024. So that's where our focus is now. The issues around the World Championship for men are many from a Canadian perspective. The biggest one is cost. We're not an Olympic sport. We don't get on the podium funding. That makes it prohibitive for us to travel to Germany, where it's going to be held in July of 2023. That was just announced just before the IFAF elections. We are, however, we haven't given up on it. We're having discussions in a number of different directions.
Okay.
I would suggest that the only way for us to make that a reality is with significant sponsorship coming in to offset the costs. This is to put it in perspective, our overall budget is about $2.7 million. And, we run 13 to 14 events every year, or participate in that many international events in total. This one event would probably be in the neighborhood of $250,000 to $350,000. So
wow.
you're talking about 10 to 15% of an entire budget. In
Right.
2011, Football Canada went down that road and practically bankrupted Football Canada.
Oh wow.
So, we have to make sure that if we're going to go down this road, we have full participation of youth sports and coaches willing to make players available at that time, because it is coming up on summer camp. I remember Matt Walter, who played on that team back in 2011, got injured, and the Calgary people gave Football Canada an earful for that. And then there's also the ability, perhaps for us to tap into practice roster players on CFL rosters.
Right.
But there, you need compliance from the CFL. You need compliance from the CFLPA as well to participate in something like that. So there's a lot of logistical wrangling that would need to go on. Plus, there's that layer of money to participate in a world championship.
Right.
We know that Canadians love World Junior things based on the hockey experience. The TV numbers tell us that. The ticket sale numbers tell us that. We are the two-time defending world champions. A lot of people will say, well, the Americans didn't send their best players there. Well, they sent, three-star and four-star players there, and we didn't have Chuba Hubbard. We didn't have Chase Claypool. We didn't have our necessarily very top-end players there either. So
exactly,
we take it seriously. We organize well. We win championships at that level. I'm really looking forward to what we can do working with the football community in Alberta and Edmonton for the 2024s. There's already discussions about how we plan for that and how we integrate with the community there.
So I guess the next thing I would ask you is, just like the offseason we saw last year with the volatility and the talk of merging and changing rules and changing the size of the field and all of that fun stuff, where do you think this is going to go, and how volatile do you think it's going to get this offseason versus last offseason?
Well, I'll say this from an amateur football perspective. We, our associate members met and communicated a piece to the CFL about kind of immovable objects for us. One of them is the field size. One of them is 12 men. Um, you know, um, we're not in a position where we're going to be striding on 3 downs, because CJEP plays 4 downs and they play a modified 4 down game. And there are other places that play 4 downs. BC High School plays American, by the way,
Yep.
along with SFU. So, in terms of having anywhere between 150 to 170 fields across the country with permanent Canadian markings on them, um, and having a rule book that started in 1880 that we fostered along, that is the major asset for us, which I
Right.
want recognized by IFAF, by the way. There's major costs to major surgery to the game in this country, not just to people in amateur football, but to cities, municipalities, parks boards. Like it starts cascading down the line if we do a major retrofit of what our game is. And we're at a point coming out of the pandemic, or going back in and out of a pandemic, where our investments that we need to make need to be very focused. We can't go off on a sidetrack, having to go back to the city of Belleville and saying, hey, can you do this with this field that you just installed 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Right? We
Yeah,
can't go
exactly.
down that road. There's just too much cost that's involved in that. Now, I hope that the CFL, as their innovation committee and their rules committee, takes a look at evolving the game more than changing the game, evolving the game, that they take a look on impacts down the line. We would very much like to be part of that conversation. We don't have to be parts of all the conversations, but I can think of one innovation at the pro level, and they've talked about a lot of things, but if there's one innovation at the pro level that they want to incorporate, is perhaps moving the goalposts to the back of the end zone and having a 15-yard end zone. People can think what they want about that, but from an amateur perspective, we'd be okay with that. And the reason why I say we'd be okay with that is that we're not going to be moving the goalposts at the amateur level to foster better kicking development. We're going to leave them on the goal line, and we'll probably leave the end zones 20 yards deep. That's one example where, if the pros want to go over in this direction, amateur can stay in this space, right? In terms of other innovations, I really hope that the professional level focuses on safety as much as entertainment at this stage. So in terms of the volatility, I think there's a way for the CFL to manage innovation. And what I mean by that is they have an exhibition season this year coming up. So a lot of those wrinkles, whether it's 4 downs, whether it's 11 inches off the ball instead of a yard off the ball, whether it's because in some facilities they can do this, if they want to go with a hybrid field and 11, if they want to try all of that stuff, if they want to try 12-minute quarters, if they want to try different timing patterns, they can use that as their laboratory, right? Before they look at doing something in 2023. I think they also, the CJFL said that they would be willing to take some of these innovation pieces and work that through their season next year. So you might see the Quinte Skyhawks doing something attached to a CFL exhibition game. That's what I anticipate. Now, is there the feeling within the CFL community that they want to make change and make it stick right away and incorporate it without that experimentation? Maybe there is now. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I would think that continuing the conversation and experimentation in exhibition games, which should actually make preseason games more compelling, would be a great way to have a good understanding of how the community feels about it, because I do believe that as much as they want growth, they need to make sure that they sustain the foundation of their base when it comes to their fan base.
Yeah, and I guess that was ultimately my fear, right? My fear was that it would be a top-down approach where the CFL goes with all this innovation and different rules and stuff first, and then it slowly trickles down to the other levels. I would rather it have, like you said, use the lower levels as sort of a breeding ground, sort of like how other sports do, like MLB. They use the minor leagues there to test like the pitch clock and the stuff like that. I would rather see that versus CFL doing a wholesale change and then U Sports sitting there like, oh, well, now we should probably change, but as you mentioned, the budgeting issues where now we're going to have to change the field. We're going to have to change everything now.
Yeah, and I would think that, U Sports, and we've had discussions with them about several larger alignment pieces between themselves and Football Canada. U Sports is in a position that's different than the CJFL. The CJFL, club-based system, focus solely on football, easier to adjust on the fly to innovation than U Sports is. So if you're looking for U Sports to experiment, you've come to the wrong place. Based on insurance and liability issues and and having to coordinate 4 conferences, that's not the place where you want to go for innovation.
Right.
The CJFL is willing to find a way to connect with the professional league. They're very football first, and they can adapt on the fly. So they can be the AHL or the ECHL to the NHL when it comes to certain innovations, or like you said, the pitch clock is a perfect example in minor league baseball, where you can try these things and see how they fit and see how they work and how you adjust them. You're going to take learnings away. And I think if we go back to the 2019 season, one of the things that was somewhat distressing from my perspective is if something wasn't working mid-season, they went and just changed it mid-season in the Canadian Football League, and that's not a stable way to run your operation. I understand the need and the desire to get things right, but you've got an opportunity now, if you're making changes to your game, do some trial and error in that space, and then in the other space, and see what the result is at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just me, but I'm fine with tweaks in the off season, but don't go changing it mid season. It throws the continuity of the stats out of whack. It throws everything out of whack. Yeah. All right, Jim. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us at the State of the Sub address. I wish you all the best. Good luck with your IFAF and the President Football Canada stuff.
Sure. If you need me for anything, you know where I am.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, and you have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Okay. Bye now.